Hello. Thanks,
Good
Frog.
afternoon, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
It's me, Froggy.
Thank you guys for coming. We are welcome back to CSC, all things real estate,
Real estate.
mortgage
And insurance.
podcast. I still can't get it right. Season 8, episode 12. Okay, how to reach us. We'll do this now. And at the end, email info@cscallthings.com. Phone number 540-300-6277. We are being powered by Birch Real Estate Group. Okay, and we'll be having some announcements coming up with our first sponsors. Okay, now we're off to the Scullaball part. Anybody got something to say? Let's keep it going. I got some stuff to say.
I'll let you start.
We're going to just show the prompter that has the words on it. So
Okay, you want to take up the Scullaball?
My Scullaball, I told y'all last week I was going to do minimum talking because I took up a lot last week.
You did say that.
I don't want super producers staring me down, with my eyes. But the Scullaball that I got is, I saw some interesting stuff this week, right? That I was watching on CNN. So CNN was talking about all these different financial services and whether they're scams or not. So, of course, insurance is always included in financial services.
Sure.
What I want to do is, from now until next week, please, you could do it in a DM and on our Facebook page. You can send us an email. I would like to hear a lot of different consumers' opinions on home warranties, on insurance, whether it's car, home, or commercials. The way that you feel some things are quote unquote scamish, right? Because companies are just blood sucking companies, right? And that's the opinions, right?
Yeah.
Being a business owner, when I didn't have my business, I sort of had the same mind frame on some things. Being a business owner, I had to actually dive in and play both sides of the field.
Sure.
I had to play the consumer, and I had to play as the business, right? And think about the overhead, what actually brings money and expenses and all of that.
Yeah.
So one thing I will say, then I'm gonna kick it over to my guy. What you see on social media with these insurance promos that's telling you insurance brokers or insurance companies are scamming you, you can click right on here and get insurance coverage for $60 a month. That's the biggest scam in the
I'm
world.
asking about that myself.
Yeah, he asked me about that. First and foremost, there's three different levels, and there's three different levels. You have preferred customer, standard, and non-standard customers. My question is to you, which one are you? If you have not had an accident or a ticket in the last 5 to 7 years, you are a super duper preferred customer. Your insurance credit is up there. I am one of them, thank God, right? If you are a standard customer, that means within the last 3 to 5 years, you had maybe one accident, no tickets, okay? A non-standard means under the last 3 years, you don't have tickets, accidents, okay, and your claim report reflects that, and points are coming off of your license. That all has to do with risk. So in order to get a $60 a month auto, full coverage, auto at 50,000, 100,000 liability, or 100,000 and 300 liability, it's going to take an act of God because nobody's getting that. All right? But I will dive into that even more next week, and I'm going to keep giving you breakdowns of how insurance rates, scores, and charges customers.
Yeah.
Good stuff, man. I mean,
I've seen that. I get it so much it's offensive.
right. That's my point. I'm going through some trading out on my business stuff I'm doing, and the Telephone Protection Act, it's like they're not supposed to be able to do that.
Right.
We can't do those advertisements,
Correct.
and you get sued.
Correct.
So how do they continue to do that and not get sued?
And it's not even true, but
Right.
they keep getting away with it.
Yeah.
People gonna
Bait
keep
and
on pressing
switch.
it because it's interesting.
I do that. If I got 1% rates, guys, for the next 30 days. I'm going to jail. My license is gone. Everything.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
And even if, and you see that even with, like you look at car finance, right? If you see an ad, you can get this model car for this much a month. There's 5 lines of, based on first retail price, all that kind of stuff. So just because that payment is available, some of these, there's a small bubble, but most people don't look at it.
Yeah.
I mean, $50 a month, Cliff. I mean, honestly, that's like a car that's paid off. That's like
You don't drive it.
Don't
Yeah,
drive it,
yeah.
no miles,
Correct.
and it's probably only worth $1,000, right?
Yep.
Yeah, so that's good stuff. I mean, but they come, yeah, it's good.
Yeah, no, it's, some people have responded, well, Auntie Brenda.
Hey, Brenda.
Said that the volume is a little low. If
Oh.
anyone else has experienced that, please give a thumbs up. I am hearing it right now because I do share with the technical, so it sounds fine on this end,
Yeah.
but, you know, it could be
Cool,
different on
push
your
that.
end. Make sure, that your
We'll
computers are turned up, phones are turned up, things like that. So that's all.
be awesome. Don't worry about that.
But other than that, I can, you know, that's why I know y'all see me with the earpiece in my ear all the time and say, is Cliff talking on the phone right? No, not at all. I'm making sure audio is just as good helping out the producer, so it sounds good. So let's
All
go.
right. Okay, so let me go.
Yeah, go ahead.
I'm gonna start bottom, and my last piece of but then you can jump in.
Yeah.
All right. First, I want to say something about this. Okay, this is news stuff, nothing to do with real estate or anything. But on the news today, it just perplexes me all the time. Okay, you all saw how the stock market, they say, set a record yesterday, right?
Yeah.
And the reason being, apparently, is there's speculation that the war is going to end soon. Okay, but her next breath is when she was even like, oil prices went up because the oil people don't think the war is going to end soon. So how do you have both?
I mean, it's very easy to have both.
Is it?
You know,
Educate me.
Standing right here, you have one agent who's not a fan of home warranties, and you have one agent that is a fan of home warranties, right?
Okay, but that's
But it's these are our interpretations of a product,
right.
and the experiences, right? But we're not trying to push it. In any kind of news reporting, there's always going to be bias,
Sure.
right?
But the fact the stock market went up, people made millions of dollars yesterday over
Yeah.
speculation. To me, that's like me saying, hey, Chris and Cliff,
Yeah.
I'm going to have a party at 1 o'clock in Fort Hunt Park on Saturday. You guys want to come?
Yeah.
You going to show up? No, you're not going to show up. Okay? So that's just my piece on that.
Yeah, and then, you know, there's, and again, I'm not
About
saying
the
who,
you know,
you know, there's different, you know,
She's giving us the hurry up
giving
already.
she's giving you, there are such things as different disinformation campaigns.
Sure.
You know, there's all kinds of
All
things
kinds of stuff.
like that.
Another battle. Okay, we'll move on. Even Chris is like pushing me on. All right. Now I want to mention the home, you guys. I did the little snippet yesterday. Beautiful home in Fredericksburg. Okay, it's ready on the market now. You can get on it. Okay, we have great realtors that can hook you up with that if you want to see that property, and I know the owner. Okay, so don't forget that. Lastly, from my scuttlebutt, is going to bring everybody in. Protecting the EMD. Okay, earnest money deposit. Right? And rules, this is what I'm going to ask you. Rules, ways when showing a home. What are the rules for that? Now, people who lose jobs before the thing's consummated and anything is your fault, what's the risk of losing your EMD?
So, in a contract,
Break down the EMD real quick.
yeah,
Okay.
so EMD is what they call earnest money deposit. For us old school folks, we used to call it good faith, right? It's the money that a buyer puts towards the purchase, right? We call it good faith, as a show of good faith towards the seller, that they are going to operate above board in the purchase of this home, right? It almost works as like security, right? Because if you do something untoward, untimely, or don't live up to your end of the bargain, the seller has rights to keep that EMD, right? However, what some people don't realize is that EMD is not the limits of your liability if you really go off the range, right? So in a paragraph, in a contract, there's a paragraph called default, right? And default talks about the things that either party can do that would cause them to be in breach of the contract, right? So what I like to say is, and going back to your question of, you know, how do you protect it, this, that, and the other is, just do what you're supposed to do, right? From a buyer's side, okay?
Time is of essence.
Yes, from the buyer's side, time is of the essence. If the lender says, I need your bank statements, and you wait 3 weeks, and you cause us to, first of all, you got a financing contingency, but let's just assume all that. You miss the settlement date, you can be held in default, right? If you put in the contract that you were doing 20% down, and now you have to do 5% down, and you don't disclose that, and it impacts the seller, either by a later settlement date or increased fees, you can be held in default, right? If you lose your job and you don't say anything to anybody, if you lose your job and you call Sean, I just lost my job, I don't have any prospects, you can issue a denial letter, right?
Right.
But if you lose your job, you don't say anything to anybody, you just hope you're gonna cross the finish line, you can be held in default, right? So, so really, the earnest money deposit, if everybody operates above where it should be fine. If something happens to the buyer that's beyond their control, 99% of the time, they'll get their deposit back.
Okay.
And the reason I say 99% is because there's also a responsibility from the agent, the buyer agent, to properly communicate, right?
Okay.
Did the buyer communicate it to the agent, and maybe the agent dragged their feet? Did the agent miss the deadline for delivery, right? In the contract. So typically that EMD, that deposit, you typically go, and we talked about this, it's not an additional fee, it goes towards all your closing costs.
Yeah.
But as long as you do what you're supposed to, time of the essence is a big one. And, we understand it could be a stressful situation.
Yeah.
Sean, myself, Cliff, a buyer may feel that we're calling them, bugging them is the term people like to use about these things, but we're trying to protect them.
Yeah.
And typically in a financing contingency, it's 21 days, right?
3
21
weeks,
days.
3 4 weeks.
It's 21 days, which sounds like a lot, right? But with government loans, you have to wait for the appraisal, right? You can't affect that. But it sounds like a lot, and if you wait a week or wait 7 days to get your bank statements, because understand, when Sean asked, I'm going on now. When Sean asked for the bank statements, right, he's asking for them so they can be vetted, right? You might think everything is, the way it's supposed to be. You might think your documentation is supposed to be. You might have, but if you wait 7 days, then it goes to the process, to underwriting, right? Then the underwriter they can have it to 24, 48-hour turnaround. We've lost 10 days if an issue comes up that has to be addressed, right?
Like a large deposit.
Yeah.
I mean, that can slow it and stop everything.
Yeah, we just had a meeting. We just had a meeting yesterday, and I can't remember the specific situation, but there was a suit was brought, an accusation was brought, and during the discovery period, that's when everything comes out. Who was emailed what? When did the lender ask for that? All that kind of stuff. And this wasn't a court of law. This just had to do with a contract. So all that information goes to. So yes. So EMD goes back 90% of the time, with the exception of
You said 90 or
99.
No.
Well,
I
I said
had where if it wasn't that I wrote in the contract, every extension I have to ask for, I write that the EMD has to be returned if we, for any reason. Because remember, we have to send the addendum releasing that EMD. And sometimes my sellers don't want to release it. I'm like, we have an issue.
So this is two different dependents on how things happen.
I do think that there are certainly certain situations where.
And we both know, new home construction, they're not releasing that EMD.
Oh, they will. Let me get a call for
All right, so that's all good on that. Now, Chris, rules, ways when showing a home. Now, I bring this up to make you a little bit shocked. We had a client got referred, okay, a couple years ago. Was he involved in that? Might have been involved in that. I think you were involved in this. There's a woman, I'm not going to say, I don't remember her name, but she was wanting to buy a house. So I'm going through my process, okay, this is what you qualify for. But no, she wanted this specific house in Potomac, Maryland, that was like $2.5 million. Okay?
The crazy one.
Okay? Now, she qualified for $150,000. But
51,000.
Okay?
Oh.
Okay? But she said to me, I swear this is the truth. I'm not even exaggerating. The Lord told her that this was her house.
Sean's on it today.
That's a fact. She knows it.
You said religion, politics.
She sat on this people's ground, Chris. She went to the backyard. You remember that?
She called me.
How are you involved? So I'm not, it's a factor, right? I mean, so what are the rules and ways when showing home? Is there a rule that says you have to be able to qualify for the house that you're going to see, or what's that like?
So the short answer is, I would say it's market to market, right? In this market, for the majority of things, if an agent receives a showing request from another agent, they're going to approve it. Now, when you get to a certain price and location threshold, in many cases, they will want a pre-qual letter. Sometimes they want to see proof of ability to purchase. Sometimes they'll quantify, the agent will call you, and some gives you more, the listing agent will be there. There's some markets in the country, especially like in LA, the listing agent is there for every single show. So in that specific case, that property, that agent had in there a very specific paragraph that talked about proof of ability to purchase.
Proof of funds.
Proof of ability, either approval or cash.
That's big to know.
So, but I will tell you this, so yeah, most cases, if an agent requests a showing in a showing time is the system that we use, it's typically approved. So that's from the listing agent side. From a buying agent side, I will tell you, if someone is in a range, I'll show them anything in the range of their pre-approval, right? Because sometimes you have folks that are approved at 700, but maybe they think they don't want to spend more than four or five. You may have to show them that lower end and let them make the decision. Maybe it's location, maybe it's size of the bedrooms. Maybe, in one area, a $400,000 house and a $600,000 house, the difference between turnkey and 2 years of sweat equity, right? So you have to show it. If someone is really, really outside of what their approval range is, then there'll be a discussion about why we're looking at it, right?
Yeah.
Sometimes, and I have had situations where it's way outside, and maybe this is a referral, and I may show it so I can get a chance to meet them face to face if I haven't had a chance to do my buyer orientation, to meet them and have some conversation and meet, and press palms and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, but really there's not. But there are some markets where markets and even some listings here in this area where the agents will see ability to purchase. You're not just, most cases, you're just not going to go see a $12 million home on the Potomac, and you're just going to request it in showing time and they're going to approve it. That's just not going to happen.
Gotcha. That's what I wanted to hear. Good stuff. Real good stuff. That's all I got. I want you to go ahead, because last week you pushed yours, and I'll probably push mine until next week.
No, it's all right.
No.
17 minutes.
See what you got.
So last week,
Oh.
So last week, Cliff was talking about things to do when you get into some financial hardship, right? So this week I want to talk about what to do if you may not be able to make your mortgage payment, or you feel that you may not. So the first and foremost is that you absolutely, positively, and this was anybody, I don't care whether it's them or your electricity company, don't go silent, right? Communication is the absolute key. The mortgage company doesn't want to own your home. It doesn't want to take your home back. What actually happens is you put them in a situation where they have to take it back, right? And it has less to do about how they feel, but it's what's written into your note, right? It's what's written into your note. Contrary to popular belief, and I swear this is a swap segue, people a lot of times like to say, you don't own your home, the bank owns your home. That's not true. You own your home. Your home is collateral for the loan, okay? It's your deed, you own the home, okay? You can't do anything with it until you pay the bank off, but your home is just collateral for it, okay? So when you don't pay, the bank calls for that note, and they say, hey, we haven't been paid back. We're afraid we're not going to get paid back. So to make ourselves whole again, we need to cash in those chips, right? And that's what happens triggering the foreclosure. Okay?
Just like a car.
So what you're saying is, you pay, you stay,
You
you
don't,
don't, you won't.
Yeah.
So if someone thinks they may miss a mortgage payment, they should contact their mortgage servicer immediately. People say, what's a mortgage servicer? Most cases, if you have a loan, I'll just say Chase, right? Chase is not who you're going to be interacting with. You're going to be interacting with another company hired by Chase to service your loan. What does that mean? Take your payment, manage your escrows, all that kind of stuff. The letters you get, they're going to come from this mortgage servicer, okay? So when you close, you start getting these letters. That's what it's a mortgage servicer, okay? You can also connect with a HUD-approved housing counselor, okay? because help is typically free. Now, these are things in the early stages, right? Because everything takes time to work. Number one, what should you say to the bank? First and foremost, be proactive and honest, right? You know, if you try to, I would say be proactive and honest with yourself, right? You know, don't make a commitment that you know you can't keep, right? You know, just be as honest as possible. Explain why you might not be able to pay. You know, job loss, reduced income, medical issue. I would even say, you know, family member with divorce, family member with medical issues, death in the family. All those are things that may open up the gates for what you'll be able to help with, right? And then ask directly, what hardship assistance or loss mitigations options do I qualify for right now, all right? Always ask for names, always take notes, time and date, whether you do an electronic notepad on your phone, just keep track of everything, right? So here's some of the main options. Number one is a forbearance, okay? It's a temporary pause or reduction in payments. Now, I will tell you about a forbearance. It will, typically what happens, they put aside your payments, your escrows and all that, and they will put it aside for a few months, but they will tack it onto the, I say tack it onto the back, but sometimes it's the form of a silent second, right? Yeah. But it will add to your overall balance, okay? A repayment plan, we allow you to catch up over time. Those are okay. They can be risky because sometimes you end up making a payment and a half to get caught up.
Sean, that does still affect your credit.
Absolutely. If anytime you miss a payment,
anytime you miss a payment,
it's going to affect your credit.
Okay.
Yeah. Payment deferral, move missed payments to the end. They do that in a loan modification. A loan modification, even though there was a heyday during the recession, they do still do them, right? The challenge is that years ago, the biggest thing they would do was lower your interest rate. Now with interest rates being higher, right, they can't still do that. But some banks still do options. They'll recast the loan. They'll stretch out your amortization, things of that nature, okay? When we talk about liquidity besides your paycheck, look at your emergency savings. So it's a conversation right now. If you don't have an emergency savings and you have equity, give Sean a call now, see about getting a HELOC, right? We've got $300,000 in equity. You don't need a $300,000 HELOC. But I would say get enough for your 6-month cushion, and maybe if you have some specific items to be done around the house. Why do I say specific? Don't worry about the universe knowing you have extra money. Worry about your friends and family, okay? You know, we just need you to help us out. Be careful about using high-interest credit cards, payday loans, and cash advances. The goal is to solve a short-term problem, not create a bigger one, right? And also seek advice, right? There's nothing wrong with seeking advice from professionals before it gets there. So let's just say staying in the home is not realistic, right? One thing I like to offer is, and it's not easy, is sometimes you can rent the home out, right? And I will tell you folks that those of you that refinance during the COVID rates, the 2s and the low 3s, you may be able to rent your home out and cover it for more than what the mortgage is, right? Right? Absolutely positive, because what happened when we had those low rates, prices went up. A lot of owners who were forced to be landlords ever since the recession time finally had a chance to cash out. So it reduced the number of rentals. So that's why rental rates went up. So you take a look at that. You just move out and somebody else pay your mortgage. You can move back in when you get your feet together, okay? What's the other one? Sell the home. So my goal is when I get a phone call like this is we look at everything. We look at ways to keep the home until we're exhausted from it, right? If selling the home becomes an option, we'll look at the best way. It's not just about selling the home, because we also have to think about what housing options do you have after that. Right. If you haven't called me early enough, you might have a 30-day, you might have a 60-day, you might have a 90-day. Maybe there's other things you're behind. You may not necessarily have the credit to just go out and get a rental.
So rentals are different now. It's not like it was. It's not as easy.
It's not as easy because of COVID, because of the recession and everything else, people are much more stringent on their requirements. I have more landlords saying, I'll let it sit until I get somebody with a 700.
Right.
You know, all day.
If you miss a mortgage payment, you don't have a 700.
Yeah. And then last but not least, here's the last things I want to remind you with. In these podcasts, you know, we leave them so you can share them with anybody. Number one, do not ignore notices from the servicer. right?
At all.
Don't ignore them.
It's not going nowhere.
Do not wait until the situation is severe before asking for help. And listen, this is not just entry-level buyers. These are people that have high net worth, right? But I'll tell you, if your mortgage is $1,500 a month, and you get behind 2 months, you might be able to come up with $2,600, right? But if your mortgage is $6,000 a month, 2 months, you're down 12. Okay, you're not just gonna find that under a rock. Okay. Do not assume the bank will fix this without your involvement. Do not fall for foreclosure rescue scams. I'll tell you, this is probably good for another forecast about the foreclosure process, when the bank moves you to the foreclosure division, right, and all that. Don't pay someone claiming they can guarantee you they will save your home. The only thing that will save your home is paying or having a arranged agreement with your financial institution. That's it. And last, a HUD-approved housing counselor is one of the safest places to start for help. So, it happens, right? We have a lot of volatility right now. People are concerned about a lot of things. We've all been there, but definitely pick up the phone. Don't be silent.
Okay, so I wanted to piggyback on a little bit. I'm gonna push mine till next week.
Thanks, Jeff.
Yeah, thanks, Jeff. You know what? And so Jeff, another great little officer out there, Jeff Thomas with the Mount Vernon High School, one of our majors, great guy, better person. Him and his wife want some cake. I got you, man. Send me a referral. You got yourself a cake. But I want to just stay on this for a minute, because once you start getting late, right, that you're going to get that letter from that service. Hey, what's going on? And once you open that letter up, there's a number. Call 1-800 if you need support, help. Let us know, basically saying, let us know what's going on if we can help. It's going to be in that letter. But I know people just take them letters, they're scared, and just let them stack up. And then you got a stack of letters that you're just ignoring.
Yeah.
And that's just like digging a deeper hole.
Yeah. And it does matter what jurisdiction you're in. In Maryland, it's a judicial foreclosure state, so it takes a little more effort. You get many more notices and all this before your home's foreclosed. In Virginia, you get a letter from the attorney they've hired. You get a letter saying that there's a foreclosure date. And you get a letter saying it ain't yours anymore. And that's how it works in Virginia.
So you actually get 3 letters of default.
Yeah.
You get a letter from the attorney, and then you get the we're going to foreclosure letter. So that's 5, and that's it.
Yeah.
Hello, Mrs. Logan. Thank you for supporting us. Appreciate you. I don't see my girl, Miss Beck, but I know she's with us in spirit. But that's all I got right now. But next week, guys, I'm going to talk about the new math of home ownership. Deborah gave this to me. It's got some really great factors. Comes with some like a flow chart of what they say and the pressures that are things that are happening as far as real estate goes with buyers now. So I'll dig into that next week. But that's all I got.
I'm so proud of myself. See how I soaked it and I didn't say much. Next week I'm gonna respond on some a testimony and some things on what Chris was talking about with forbearance versus modification, and give you some personal testimonies, right? Because everybody's situation is different. However, I went and consulted with my partners that gave me the advice, and it worked out for me. So maybe my testimony will help you out come next week.
And I think some also maybe a topic could be the short sale process.
Yeah.
Because can you still get profit on the short sale, or you don't? Because you're short.
No, because the definition of a short sale is that the bank is accepting less than what you owe as satisfaction for the loan.
Because for the loan, it's still a foreclosure.
But it's still better than a foreclosure for a whole host of reasons.
Okay.
The bank, if you foreclose, the bank still has the option to come out after for the full amount, right? And then our military folks out there, or our folks that have clearances, it does look better to have a short sale versus foreclosure when your clearance is up for review.
Oh, really? That makes a very big difference.
Yeah, because a foreclosure says you just kind of like walk away. Short sale says that you did your best to kind of.
So are you guys basically saying that when it comes to a foreclosure, the reason if your house does get foreclosed, it's more on the lack of communication than not having the actual funds right then and there to catch up with people?
I would say it's both. There are certainly times where you can't get blood from a rock, right? There are certainly times where the person is unemployed, they've exhausted their savings, they don't have a a circle of friends to help, and it just, it just makes more sense. But I will tell you, there are plenty of times where a home will go to foreclosure because people were embarrassed. They didn't want to reach out to people. They didn't want to reach out to the agent that sold them the house out of embarrassment. You'd be amazed at how many homes go to foreclosure that have more than enough equity they could have sold the house.
Yeah,
And I'm not talking about a couple grand, hundreds of thousands, which could have helped them set themselves up, for somewhere else. But it's people are afraid to pick up the phone.
I want to say this real quick. The crash of the 2000s, mid-2000s, people were just walking away, dropping their keys. People, they were getting paid money to about like $5,000, $2,000, whatever it was. Leave your keys and walk away. People were doing that. So there's all kinds of stuff. You dig into that. Okay, next time. All right, guys. Thank you again. Coming back to CSC, all things real estate, mortgage, and insurance. One more time, how you can reach us. Info at cscallthings.com. Phone number 540-300-6277. And again, we're powered by Birch Real Estate Group. Okay, and you can follow us on Facebook. You can also follow us on Instagram. Okay, we're going to get that YouTube thing going as well. Okay. Quote of the day from Thomas Edison. Opportunity is missed by most people because it is dressed in overalls and looks like work. That's deep. Okay? Define it what it means. You got it. Say it again. Okay. Opportunity is missed by most people because it is dressed in overalls and looks like work. I mean, that's deep, right? Because it is work. Okay, guys, that's it. That's all we got today. We will see you next week. Cliff, go ahead and close us out with me.
Man, shout out. First off, Clifton Durham. Follow me. TD3insurance.com. TD3 Insurance and Associates. All right. Powered by Encore Insurance Group out of Richmond. Very, very important this week. It's hot. All right. It's hot today. So when you're out and about, if it doesn't have nothing to do with you, please mind your business and drink plenty of water. You'll be very productive.
How do you reach you, Chris?
240-476-3050.
All right. We got you guys. See you next week. Hit that music again.
Have a good one.
Have a good one. Let me feel it for a minute. Get that Tuesday in. See ya. We all we got. Good one, man.